welcome to the big game. I'm Freddie Rosario here with John Sartori, and today we'll look at the Lions football team early in conference play.
And we'll also take a look at how one former Lion is making some noise in the NFL.
But first, let's see how the Lions football team performed in their latest matchup. Following an impressive 34-24 win over Northwestern State to open Southland Conference play, the Southeastern football team went out to Beaumont, Texas to take on the Lamar Cardinals. The Lions were looking to start 2-0 in the Southland Conference play for the 5th consecutive season, but the Cardinals were 0-3 heading into the contest, needing a win to keep pace for the conference championship. Let's head out to Beaumont, Texas to see how the matchup unfolded. Cardinals versus the Lions here as we start with Lamar's Carson Earp throwing over the middle to Marcus Daggs and takes it 52 yards all the way down to the Lions' 13-yard line. 2 plays later, the Cardinals fake out the Lions defense and the cameraman as Kendrick King scampers in the end zone, 7-0 Cardinals. Lions attempting to punt, and it is blocked by the Cardinals and recovered at the 20-yard line, giving the Cardinals great field position for their next drive. This time, it's Earp who will take it himself and make it 14-0 Cardinals up early in this one. Lions trying to score before the half. Deshae Landor completes it to Acker for 25 yards, gets it out over midfield. The Lions are in Cardinal territory. Later on in the drive, Rasheed Harold doing his thing as he will take it in from 10 yards out to finally put the Lions on the board to put the score at 14-7. In the third quarter now, Earp completes it to DeAnd Jennings to put the Cardinals down to the 24-yard line of the Lions. It's another option play here coming from the quarterback, and it'll be Earp with his second rushing touchdown of the game. Cardinals 24, Lions 7. This is where it all goes wrong for the Lions offense as the Cardinals defense steps up, getting the sack on Landor there. And on the very next play, Landor drops back and is intercepted by Brendan Langley, his second interception of the game, as Lamar with the short field and takes advantage of it as Cad Harrington makes it a 31-7 game with this 15-yard run into the end zone. Lions back on the field, and Landor's pass is picked off again as it is tipped up, and Eddie McGill comes away with it for the Cardinals. No points would come from that turnover, but on the very next drive, Landor drops back and another one as the Cardinals get another interception. Langley, his third on the night. Huge day for Brendan Langley from the Cardinals. Another short field and another touchdown for Lamar as Andrew Allen makes it a 38-7 game as he runs into the end zone. Allo now back in the game, back shoulder pass to Joe Pack, and the final score of the game, 38-14 as the Cardinals take it to get their first victory of the season. A decision to replace starter Justin Allo with senior Deshae Landor early in the first half left many Lions fans scratching their heads as the Lions fell 38-14 to the Cardinals. Our own Jordan Reams was able to take a closer look at the frustrating loss for the Lions.
The Lions went into their matchup against the Lamar Cardinals with a defense that some are saying needs to improve drastically if Southeastern hopes to finish at the top of the conference. Against the Cardinals, Southeastern's defense allowed a total of 398 yards. 268 of those yards were rushing. While Lamar's offense was having its way with Southeastern's defense, the Lions' offense was trying to find something that worked for them. Senior quarterback Justin Allo would be benched early in the game for Southeastern. His replacement, fellow senior Deshae Landor, did not fare any better in this matchup. Landor threw not one, not two, but 3 interceptions to go along with no touchdowns and 92 yards through the air. Allo finished the game with 59 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception in the Lions' 38-14 loss to the Cardinals. The play at quarterback has to be more consistent, and the defense has to be able to shut down the ground game if Southeastern wants to right the ship in their next matchup. For the big game, I'm Jordan Ream.
Starting at 0-3 for the second consecutive season, the New Orleans Saints traveled to San Diego, California to take on the always classy San Diego Chargers. Looking to avoid their worst start since 2012, the black and gold would need to rely on former Charger quarterback Drew Brees to propel the offense to their first victory of 2016. Would the homecoming prove to be a cool breeze or a rough storm? Let's go to the highlights. Drew Brees taking on the Chargers, as well as the rest of the Saints. He's fired up, and for good reason. First quarter, the Saints get on the board first. Mark Ingram into the end zone. He's mad at the ground. 7-0 Saints early, but the Chargers would answer as Phillip Rivers on the play action. Freddie, I think you could have caught this one. Wide open. Hunter Henry in the end zone. He's also mad at the ground. I don't know why they keep throwing balls at the ground like that. 7-7 is the score early, but Saints come right back as it's John Kuhn on the reception from Breeze. He's into the end zone. It is 14-7, and it is a spike fest. Peyton not thrilled, but the Chargers would answer. This is classic Saint defense here. Dontrell Inman into the end zone. We got a tied game at 14 as we head further into the second quarter. The Chargers would add to their lead right here following the fireworks as Melvin Gordon into the end zone. 24-14 is the halftime score. Gordon's 5th touchdown of 2016. Now we'll pick it up in the second half. The Saints chop into the lead a little bit as it's John Kuhn again. He's got a great first name, Freddie. That's just my personal opinion. 24-21 as Kuhn gets into the end zone for the second time as a Saint. Saints fans are fired up, and Kuhn's going to keep running because he liked it so much. Keep running. Keep running. But Melvin Gordon can run too. His second touchdown. He gets into the end zone. It is again a 2-touchdown lead, 2-possession lead rather. Charger fans are excited about their team moving next year. 31-21. Saints trying to get back into the game. Breeze throws a beautiful pass downfield, and it's going to be caught by Adrian Phillips. The only problem is Adrian Phillips plays for the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers would get a field goal out of that, 34-21. Now, Melvin Gordon, the only thing you have to do is not fumble, and you win the game. You just ice it. All you got to do is just hang on to the foot. Oh, he fumbled it. He fumbled it, and the Saints get it back, and they would follow that up with a Mike Thomas touchdown, make it 34-28. And finally, a guardian angel was on the Saints side after another fumble. It is John Kuhn into the end zone. The Saints have a 35-34 lead. Late in this one, Kuhn can't even believe he got the ball 3 times. 3 touchdowns to go along with it. Last chance for the Chargers. Phillip Rivers on 4th and 22. Gonna throw it up, and it's picked off by William Wilson Jr., better known as BW. Who said nobody likes the new guy? The Saints get their first victory of the season, 35-34. Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers, 4 touchdowns combined in that one. Although the Saints found a way to win on the road, the team will head into their bye week with many questions left unanswered. The Big Game's own Richie Solaris will look to make some more sense of those questions in this week's Saints Analysis.
In his first game back in San Diego since a meaningless fumble and a torn labrum led the Chargers to release him, an emotional Drew Brees led the Saints to a thrilling last-minute victory to put a notch in the win column for the first time in the 2016 season. The Saints offense struggled against the Chargers defense, racking up just 275 total yards of offense, the least amount of yards in the Saints win since Drew Brees signed with the Saints in 2006. Drew Brees particularly had a bad day, throwing for just 207 yards and 2 interceptions to match his 2 touchdown passes. Brees did spread the ball around, having 9 different receivers catch a pass. However, not one of those players had over 50 yards receiving. The Chargers defense gave up 2 75-yard drives on the Saints' first possessions of the game. From that point on, though, the Chargers defense buckled down and never gave up a drive longer than 45 yards for the remainder of the game. In the second half, the Saints offense was only ever able to score after the Chargers offense turned the ball over, giving the Saints great field position. Phillip Rivers looked like the superior quarterback against Drew Brees, throwing 321 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Saints defended the run very well, containing running back Melvin Gordon to just 36 yards on 19 carries. However, Rivers continued to slash the Saints defense through the air, in part thanks to receiver Dontrell Inman, who had 7 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown catch. The Chargers looked like they would run away with a victory, as they were ahead 34-21 with just 7 minutes remaining in the game. But the worst defense in the NFL became the heroes that their team needed them to be, forcing 3 straight turnovers, giving the Saints the edge they needed to win. Von Bell stripped the ball from Melvin Gordon, and 4 plays later, Drew Brees threw a touchdown pass to rookie receiver Michael Thomas. On the Chargers' next drive, the Saints forced another fumble, and fullback John Kuhn would power his way into the end zone to take the lead 35-34. The turnover bug would bite the Chargers' offense for a third drive in a row when Rivers threw a pick to DB Webb to seal his team's fate. With the Saints' 35-34 victory over the Chargers, they are now tied for second place in the NFC South with a record of 1-3. For the big game, I'm Richie Solaris.
One former Lion football player had the best game of his career this past Sunday. Atlanta Falcons defensive back Robert Alford recorded 2 interceptions, one of which he returned for a touchdown in his team's 48-33 win over the Carolina Panthers. Alford is a Hammond native graduating from Hammond High in 2008 and played for Southeastern until 2012. He was drafted in the second round by the Falcons in 2013 and has recorded 9 interceptions and 2 touchdowns thus far in his 4 NFL seasons.
The Major League Baseball playoffs began this week, and one former Lion got the opportunity to play under the bright lights of October. Wade Miley, who played for the Lions from 2006 to 2008, played in the postseason for the first time in his 8-year career as his Baltimore Orioles took on the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League wildcard game. Unfortunately for Miley and the Orioles, the Blue Jays' Edwin Encarnacion ended their season with a walk-off 3-run home run in the 12th inning to send the Blue Jays into the ALDS, and the Orioles back to Baltimore. Miley did not see action in the game and finished the 2016 season with a 9-13 record and an ERA of 5.37.
Coming up after the break, we'll check in with the new look Lady Lion soccer team.
We'll also update you on the tennis and golf teams as they progress through their fall schedules. Don't go away.
Welcome back to the big game. The Lady Lions soccer team has undergone a change at the coaching helm as Matt Moya this week took over the reins as interim head coach of the defending Southland Conference champions, replacing Blake Hornbuckle. In his first game, the Lady Lions posted a 1-0 victory over Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Junior Maddie Kresovic scored the lone goal in a penalty kick. Returning all Southland Conference goalie Hope Sabadash had 9 saves in the game and broke the school record for saves. Sabadash now has 359 saves on her career, breaking a record that stood for 17 years. The Lady Lions are now 5-7-1 on the year, with their next game against Lamar Friday on the road.
The Lady Lion volleyball team has found themselves in familiar territory early in their conference schedule, on a losing streak. Following their conference opening win over Lamar, the Lady Lions have lost 2 straight matches. The squad will head to UL Lafayette on October 5th for their final non-conference game of the season, before seeking to get back on track in Southland play as they return to the University Center for 2 matches, October 8th and 11th, against in-state rivals UNO and Nichols.
The Lady Lions tennis team headed to Lafayette, Louisiana this past weekend to take part in the Raging Cajun Classic at UL Lafayette. The doubles pairing of Lucia Bustamante and Natalie Duran took home the doubles title of the tournament, while in singles play, the Lady Lions posted a 2-1 record behind the rackets of Delana Dalmains and CeCe Mercer. The Lady Lions will return to the court October 14th as they head to Pensacola, Florida to compete in the Western Florida Fall Fling.
The men's and women's cross-country teams took a trip to McNeese State last weekend to run in the Cowboy Stampede. The men placed 3rd in the competition with freshman Grant O'Callaghan posting a top 10 finish, while Clarissa Smith paced the Lady Lions to a 6th place finish with a top 10 result of her own. The cross-country teams return to the course October 15th at the Mississippi College Choctaw Open.
The Southeastern golf team heads into their fall schedule under the leadership of second-year head coach Jake Narrow. A new member of the big game, Zachariah Cameron, has the update on the team's progress.
We'll start with our senior co-captains, Paul Overman and James Anstis. It's their performance off the course, not only in the classroom, but in their practice habits and just the way they encourage the other players. And so they're definitely worthy of being our co-captains.
After a successful first season, which saw his team finish 2nd in the Southland Conference, Coach Jake Naro and the Lions look to pick up from where they left off. A huge key as to whether Southeastern takes the next step and wins its 10th conference championship is senior James Antiste. He has definitely taken the next step in his play. After being named an All-Southland Conference 3rd-teamer his inaugural season as a Lion, he was named to the first team last season. The team lost stars Lawrence Allen and Eamon Bradley to graduation,
but they maintain experience with seniors Antis, Gustavo Leon, and Paul Oberman, junior Wyatt Ott, and sophomore William Myers.
Sophomores William Myers and Bailey Smith have also raised their level of play so far this year, and I'm really looking forward. If they continue to do that, they'll end up having great sophomore seasons.
The team opened the season at the Sam Hall Intercollegiate in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Oberman was Southeastern's top performer, finishing 6th, while matching his career best score, 3 under par. As a whole, Southeastern finished tied for 10th place with a final score of 13 over par. Coach Jake Naro described the team's performance as okay, adding that he is hopeful that his players knocked off the rust. To achieve their goal of winning a conference championship, the team must view this performance as a building block for the rest of the season. They were at it again at the Jim Rivers Intercollegiate, hosted by Louisiana Tech. The Lions were led by sophomore Bailey Smith, who shot a team-best even par. He ended up finishing tied for 6th in only his second collegiate tournament. Not far behind was sophomore William Myers, who finished tied for 11th with a score of 1 over par. The whole team accomplished enough to improve on their 10th place finish at Sam Hall, finishing in 6th place, which made Coach Jake Naro proud.
To continue to improve, to build upon, 2 average events, and to get maybe a little above average in this one, and the field's going to be strong, so a good finish here will do a lot for our national ranking.
Next up for the Lions is the David Toms Intercollegiate, hosted by Louisiana State University. It gets more and more challenging each week, but do not expect the Lions to waver. Reporting for the Big Game, I'm Zachariah Cameron.
When we return, we'll bring a new member of the Big Game crew, Dylan Domingue, onto the desk for some pick and roll. The Big Game, we'll be right back.
The Southeastern Channel offers a lot for sports fans.
Coaches shows, interviews with student athletes.
Football games, baseball games, basketball games.
I enjoy watching the coaches' insight programs after the online tracks because it does give our fans an insight of what happened during the game.
I enjoy watching the Big Game. It gives me an opportunity to keep up with Southeastern athletics on a weekly basis. Not just football, baseball, basketball, but even the smaller sports, like soccer and volleyball.
One of the things I've enjoyed most through the years watching is the production of the glory years.
It's a history, it's a documentation of where we've come from around here.
Solidified the reason why we brought Southeastern football back.
When the Southeastern Channel replays games, it helps the students be able to catch up and see what's going on.
I like to watch the baseball games and the football games.
It's the only time I get to watch Southeastern football is I get to see it on television. I don't ever have time to go.
Even athletics can be an educational experience when you involve the Southeastern Channel.
Welcome back to the Big Game. I'm Freddie Rosario alongside John Sartori, and joining us now on the desk for his very first time is our brand new member, Dylan Domingue. Dylan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the Lions football season hasn't gone off to the best start from the past couple of years, 1-3 in the season. Dylan, what do you think the Lions really need to do to turn the ship around?
Well, I think they need to find a passing game. They gave Shea Lander a chance, and he really just hasn't shown much. This past week at Lamar, he threw 3 interceptions and only threw 92 yards. I think Justin Allo has shown that he is the better quarterback, and I think they should start him this week against McNeese State.
So, John, what do you think the Lions really need to do to try to overcome this lack of offense from the team so far?
Well, they haven't had a lack of offense. I mean, you go into Oklahoma State, you go into Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we really expected what we saw. It was a 61-7 loss for the Lions, and Shea Landor struggled. He was consensus starter quarterback all the way from the fall to the spring, for the spring to the fall rather, and Justin Allo, basically an unknown guy, gets a start against Southern Utah and performs extremely well. Plays against Northwestern State, throws 3 touchdown passes, and then for whatever reason, Shea Landor, after 1 interception from Justin Allo in the first series against Lamar, suddenly Shea Landor's back and he throws 3 picks, and now every game's a must-win from here on out for Southeastern. Nothing can be said that will ever explain to me why Justin Allo did not complete that game. He'll get the start against McNeese Saturday, and it's a must-win for Southeastern.
Yeah, definitely one of the things that you really don't want in a football team is not knowing who your starting quarterback is. You've seen it plenty of times with teams who have multiple quarterbacks. Ohio State has had multiple quarterbacks. Alabama has had quarterback issues. LSU most recently when they had 2 quarterbacks vying for a national championship start. And for Southeastern, they really need to get that figured out. If it's going to be Allo, if it's going to be Shea, the team needs to know it right now. And moving on from that, we'll move on to Robert Alford, former Lions. Great season so far. Great game this past Sunday. Dylan, what do you think about Robert Alford's impact so far on the Falcons?
Well, like you said, he's had a great season so far. He has 21 tackles and 2 interceptions so far this year. Derek Anderson came into the game in the fourth quarter against the Falcons, and he was actually making a comeback for the Panthers since they were down big. But Robert Alford sealed the deal. The very first pick he had was a pick 6, and the very next drive he had another pick to seal the game. So I expect Robert Alford to continue having a great season.
John?
I love Dylan going with the stats. First time on the desk, he breaks out the stats. You gotta love that. But Robert Alford, really the most polarizing thing from him was, I remember when he was coming out of Southeastern, the number 1 40 time out of the entire NFL Combine. I think that's the thing that most people got Robert Alford on his map. But now he's really become a shutdown corner in this league. He's got 9 interceptions, and this is his 4th NFL season. And when you get those guys who are just speed guys, you hope that they can become good football players. And Robert Alford really has. And he's a great example of a small school DB who's making big-time plays in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. When you see on Sunday Night Football where they come up, Robert Alford, Southeastern Louisiana University, not going to hear that often, so it's great to see him making such a big impact. And now my favorite topic that we're going to talk about, MLB playoffs. It hasn't been a great year for my teams in there, but a lot of good teams out there. Dylan, what are your World Series picks?
Well, what a way to get this, the playoffs last night against the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays with a walk-off home run in the 11th inning by Edwin Encarnacion. I'm a big Cubs fan, so personally, I picked the Chicago Cubs coming out the NL. They have so much talent. Chris Bryant, Jake Arrieta, Anthony Rizzo. And out the AL, I expect Big Papi to lead the Boston Red Sox into the World Series, and I expect the Cubs to win in 6.
John, what do you got?
Don't
give me any of that Cleveland bias now. I don't want to hear Cleveland's name.
I don't know if it's necessarily biased, but I am from Ohio. The Cleveland Indians. I got the Cleveland Indians winning the AL in 6 against the Boston Red Sox in the ALCS. And then out of the NL, I'm not ready to pick the Chicago Cubs just because they may be the most talented team out of the NL, but I don't think that they're ready. They're so young. They haven't been there yet. You know who's been there? The San Francisco Giants. And that's who I've got winning the NL, and I've got them winning the World Series. I got them winning in 5 against my Cleveland Indians.
Oh, yes. Okay. At least you got them winning the other. But I love the Giants. The Giants have been a great team over the past couple of years. They're just always there. Isn't it an even number year again? It is. So, I mean, I'm going to have to go with the Giants there. Madison Bumgarner, all those guys in San Francisco, they're going to make it to the World Series, and then they're going to go up against, I believe it's either the Cleveland Indians or the Boston Red Sox. I would love Big Papi to just walk off the field with another ring, but I think Cleveland might surprise. I think I'm going to pick Cleveland to go there with you, and then, well, you know what? Pick Cleveland to win it all. Let's have the Cleveland Indians Major League win the whole thing. Let's go.
Big Papi's walking off with those steroid allegations too, though. So that's good. That's really good. Tainted.
Well, Big Papi's still a great player. Love Big Papi. Hall of Famer, first ballot all the way.
Except the steroids.
So that's all the time we have for Pick and Roll. Now when we come back, we'll close out the show with some quick hits, so don't go anywhere.
For the big game, I'm Richard Mills.
For the big game, I'm Colton Lucas.
For the big game, I'm Dominique Rogel.
For the big game, I'm Nicole Fauché.
Warning for the big game, I'm Tyler Wagensback.
Welcome back to the big game. Now it's time to finish the show off with some quick hits. Rebuilding. It's a word sports fans never want to hear. The problem is, with sports, it's that your team is constantly rebuilding. But when it's done correctly, it appears not to be even happening. Teams like the New England Patriots, St. Louis Cardinals, and San Francisco Giants, year after year remain relevant through the acquisition of new talent. Rebuilding is most evident in college sports, where players are constantly coming and going. The athletic department staff must constantly seek out new players to keep their teams competitive. So shout out to all the athletic directors and coaching staffs around the country that build the teams that we watch every single weekend. Being a Braves fan, the past couple seasons have not been great for me, including the departure of a lot of all-star level talent, including Andrelton Simmons, Craig Kimbrell, Jason Hayward, Evan Gattis, Justin Upton, just to name a few. So hopefully this rebuilding season ends relatively shortly because I'm tired of watching the Braves lose over 80 games a year. And let's make the Atlanta Braves great again.
We are now officially a month into the college football season, and every year there is a team that before the season starts, all the experts claim will be the darlings of the college football world. In years past, we've seen teams like the late 2000s Louisville and Cal teams led by Deshaun Jackson and Brian Braum, and last year the Auburn Tigers, who were guided by Heisman burnout Jeremy Johnson, all fall victim to this curse of being pegged the Cinderellas of the college football landscape before ever slipping the glass slipper on their feet. This year, that title has gone to the Tennessee Volunteers, a team that since 2008 has delivered just one season in which they won 8 games or more, a coach in Butch Jones who before the season started had a pedestrian 21-17 record since taking over as head coach in 2013, a quarterback in Josh Dobbs who prior to this season had never thrown for more than 15 touchdowns in a single campaign, but yet, for some reason, the experts of the college football world prematurely crowned Tennessee the champions of the SEC East, which isn't exactly a bold prediction, since the East is comprised of football powerhouses such as Missouri, Vanderbilt, and the always prominent Kentucky Wildcats. Sure, the team out on Rocky Top is 5-0, but let's take a closer look at that 5-0 record. They needed overtime and a lucky bounce to defeat an Appalachian State team that was embarrassed by Miami 45-10 in what was coined the second biggest game in school history, and is also competing in just their 3rd season of FBS football. They fell behind 14-0 to an underwhelming Virginia Tech team, struggled mightily against the Max Ohio Bobcats, managed to rally from a 21-0 deficit against the Florida Gators, who barely squeaked by the aforementioned powerhouse Vanderbilt, and did everything in their power to give a game away to the Georgia Bulldogs before Cinderella's player was yet again answered on a Josh Dobbs Hail Mary. Sure, the Tennessee Volunteers are 5-0. Sure, they're ranked number 9 in the country, but at some point, reality will strike this team, and it will strike them hard. If there were a poll for the luckiest team in college football, Tennessee would be voted number 1 unanimously. And sure, they may be 5-0. But a month from now, the Volunteers will be ranked 22nd in the country after back-to-back losses to Alabama and to a team that has truly been a Cinderella story, the Texas A&M Aggies. This is the moment when the college football world will finally see that Tennessee is just another casualty of the preseason college football Cinderella pick, and that this slipper, again, does not fit.
Will this finally be the year that the streak is broken? The Chicago Cubs have not won the World Series since the 1908 season, making it the longest championship drought in baseball of 107 years. Last year, the young Cubs team fell short in the National League Championship Series as the team was swept by the New York Mets. In 2016, another season under manager Joe Maddon, the Cubs won 103 games. This is the first time since the 1935 season that the boys from Chicago have won 100 games in a regular season. The Cubs are a team loaded with talent, as they sent 7 players to the 2016 All-Star Game and who helped clinch the number 1 seed in the National League. According to the Vegas odds, the Cubs lead the major leagues with a 19% chance to win the World Series. As a firm believer that streaks are meant to be broken, I have the Cubs winning the World Series, breaking the 107-year championship drought.
That's all the time we have for this episode of The Big Game. For more information on Lion Sports, please visit lionsports.net. For Dylan Domain and John Sartori, I'm Freddie Rosario. We'll see you right here next time for The Big Game.